I want to talk about intuition, guidance, and we'll see where else this goes. It's actually not what I would have thought to be sharing this week, but because I've had a couple very interesting experiences over the last 2 days, I just thought, okay, I'm going to do a podcast about this because actually now more than ever, our internal guidance system is so vitally important because we are undergoing such huge transformations and whatever you want to call it, growth, awakenings, evolution of humanity in these times. They're mega times. So yeah, this is such an important tool that we have that we've just really lost contact with. And so I want to go deeper into what is intuition, what is our inner guidance system, what is our unseen guidance support system that is around us. So that's what we're going to dive into today. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So I want to share with you a couple things that happened yesterday and today. So yesterday I dropped my daughter off, and normally I would just, drive back home, but I was sitting in the car, I was kind of overlooking a nice vista, and something in me just wanted to sit there for a little bit. And I started listening to this song that I want to learn to sing, to do a cover of. And at one point I thought, okay, I should go back now. And I just heard this clear voice that said, stay. So okay, I'll stay. And, I was kind of enjoying watching the weather roll in and just listening, learning this song. And I was kind of watching the cars on the main road. And I remembered after the fact that there was an ambulance that went by and there was a fire truck that went by, but I didn't really think much of it. And then about 20 minutes later, I decided to drive back. Well, maybe not 20 minutes from when I saw that, but, I was probably sitting there for maybe about 20 minutes. And then as I was driving back, what did I see but a really bad car accident? And so I just thought, oh, I am so happy that I heard that voice and I stayed, because who knows, the timing could have been that I could have got caught up in that, or, who knows, but it was very clear that it was a voice that was telling me, stay put. It's not a good time to go now. And I'm so grateful that I heeded it. Now today, I went to go take a walk, and I was walking up the hill away from my house, and my cat started running down the hill and was kind of meowing with urgency. And I thought, well, maybe it was just because it was extremely windy. And so maybe he was a little bit not happy about that. But it was really kind of with this urgency. And so, sometimes he meows at me when I'm going for a walk. And I just said, it's okay. And he normally, however, goes on a walk with me. He's kind of a cat dog. And this time he continued down to the house. And the weird thing is I didn't turn around to look back at the house. I kept on walking forward, but I had a moment where I thought, is he warning me about something? I really had the feeling in my body, is he giving me a warning? And I kind of thought to myself, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to go on a walk. I know I'm going to be fine. And so I took a walk, thankfully not a very long one. And I was fine on my walk. That part was true. But when I came back to my house, the field behind my house was in flames. So I know without a shadow of a doubt that that's what he was warning me about, because, cats, animals, they still are so in tune and their senses are attuned, whereas ours have been kind of fogged over. We live in a society and culture that really likes to strip us of our natural abilities, intuition and our sixth sense. In this case, among many other things. But so without a shadow of a doubt, was he warning me? And it was just so interesting that I even had this feeling of is he trying to warn me about something? But I just thought it was about would something happen on my walk? And I felt, no, that doesn't feel true for me. I feel like it's going to be okay. So I just these experiences for me yesterday and today, today I didn't heed the warning, the voice, the messenger, I should say. And And, luckily, just to let you know, everything in the end was okay, but it was a bit scary, obviously, because it was right by my house, and I was standing there with the hose running from one end of the field that was burning to the other end of the field, which is burning. It's a big field, with as long as my hose could go, like trying to hose out the flames, waiting 20 minutes for the fire brigade to come. And thankfully, the wind was blowing away from my house, not towards it. But in the midst of it, I was, there was a moment of definitely a fear, because like if the wind turned, I just thought, that's coming straight for my house. Like, it's not very far at all, a stone's throw away. And simultaneously I was quite calm, and I almost thought, is this like some kind of cosmic joke, where I felt like I was being told, like, okay, we're going to give you a big enough of a scare, but we're, everyone's going to be fine. Like everything's going to be okay, but we're going to give you big enough of a scare to get your attention and to get you to recognize that you have to listen. And this is all off the back of, I had a session with a woman on Friday, and it was really reminding me of a session. It wasn't a client. I was actually the client in this case. And it was really actually reminding me of my abilities. And, this for some people I hate this term so much, but I'm going to use it. For some people listening, it might be really woo-woo. Hopefully my listeners and followers are, on board with me. But I know that I have very strong intuitive and psychic abilities, but I think I have at times tone them down, or, there's a lot of complication to it. But I'm really recognizing that this part of me needs to really come to the forefront, and I need to respect it and heed it and value it. And actually just really, it's kind of like polishing, silver that's gone a bit, what is the name for it? There's a name when silver goes a bit dull. But, really recognizing that it's like, okay, polish this part, because I know that it's very strong within me. And actually, I do use it quite a lot for myself in many ways, but it's like really trusting it and really stepping into my own power and really stepping into my full potential, and maybe not even being like sometimes a bit too humble with certain things. Because also, I think it's only not right, but I keep myself in check, because I believe in walking humbly. And also I'm recognizing that you can be humble and still really own your gifts. And to be honest, I believe that we all have the potential for this. I believe that we have had these skills and that they're in us, for centuries, but they've been oppressed and suppressed for centuries. So I think I truly believe, that we're all intuitive beings, and I totally believe in telepathy because I've experienced it myself in little moments. And, they say that we only have 2 strands of our DNA activated, and, there's another 10. We are coming into a time which is very exciting and tumultuous. And, it's being called the Great Awakening, but I think it's really the awakening not to just what is going on in the world, and we're really seeing the shadow coming up to the surface. And of course, as there's more shadow, there's more light coming in. And so we're also being reminded again of who we are truly and what we're capable of. And really at the core, or at the heart of it, I should say, is that our consciousness is arising and awakening again. And as we fall or choose to reside, to live more in heart and more in the consciousness of love, this is the alchemization of humanity right now. This is the evolution, the growth, the transformation, the awakening, whatever you want to call it. And so part of that is that all of these skills kind of come online again. We begin to see synchronicity more. We see number sequences more. The way that we even communicate with animals changes. Like I have so much more of an intuitive line of communication with my cat, and just such a kind of love right now that is I don't know, it's really deepened just in the last, I would say even last 6 months. There's been such a shift that I can't even give words to it, because when you go into these experiences, energetic experiences and feelings or embodiments, words are way too limited to describe it. So this might sound really far out to some people, but I want to go into a little bit like as much of the kind of detail of like, okay, what is our intuition? Because a lot of people are like, I don't know, I don't hear anything, I don't feel anything. And that's the thing too, is it's very individual, it's very personal, and there's different ways in which we experience our intuition. Some people clearly hear something out loud. Some people sense it, they feel it. Sometimes it's an internal voice kind of in your mind. There's no right or wrong, right? There's just different ways in which our being, it's like depending which radio station you're tuned into, how your antenna works. But again, there's no right or wrong way. But normally what happens, so I shared something, and then I had a really lovely, very interesting comment where someone was saying, oh, I had this voice to do this thing. I won't go into the detail of it, but then there was the immediate doubt of like, oh, that's a big risk. I have to invest money into it. And, there's thousands of submissions and it's very unlikely that you'll win and all this stuff. And so, but the doubt came in, and she was like, what are your thoughts on this? And I said, well, it's easier to hear a voice like, stay, don't drive now, right? Because there's no emotional attachment or investment to it. It's just very kind of simple. The moment we have emotional attachment or investment in something, so that might be what we produce in the world, or it might be in regards to a relationship, those have more of an emotional attachment because they're connected to our self-worth and to ourself, just to our identity. And so whenever we're putting ourselves out there, doubt is coming in and saying, I don't believe in myself enough. Is this testing kind of my relationship to my self-worth? Or maybe it's the fear of the pain or the loss or the disappointment or the rejection of the past, and we don't want to go through that again. And so doubt comes in and kind of stops us or slows us down, whereas that voice just wants to bring us closer to joy. Like, we're here to live life and have all of these just various experiences. And yes, sometimes they are painful and they can cause suffering, but really our higher being wants to bring us closer to joy. And oddly, I don't believe that this is necessarily true. And I actually think we're shifting into a different paradigm where we don't need to learn through suffering so much. I think we've had to a little bit in the past, but we're coming out of that. That there are gifts in suffering, because the suffering is a catalyst for, if we're willing to look at it with conscious awareness, suffering can be a catalyst for our growth. But I do believe that we're moving into a time where I think we don't need so much suffering. Like, we've been through that school of life, and now we can actually step into joy and still grow as beings, as souls. So sometimes we need to just take the risk, to take a leap of faith and believe in ourselves. And it's not, what I wrote is, it's not about the outcome or the destination. It's about the process. What is the process and the journey giving to you? Like, maybe it's just an energetic shift that is larger and more profound than we might ever think. Because in that energetic shift of saying, I'm going to choose me, I'm going to give attention to that voice, to my intuition, to my passion, to my desire, to what I want to create in this world, to what I want to experience in this world. I'm saying yes to that. And I'm going to take a leap of faith and take the risk, not knowing what is going to happen, right? And actually getting out of that mind frame of, is it going to lead me to success or failure? That's really, firstly, so limiting and so narrow. And secondly, just so dualistic, right? It's not like, we shouldn't be doing things in life with the expectation or, being measured by if that experience is going to have been worth it if we succeeded, and it's not worth it if we failed. So like, if the submission was accepted and you won, then it was a success. And if you wasn't accepted and you didn't win, then it's a failure. It's not about that. It's about where the process took you within yourself. And ultimately, it's about moving closer towards yourself, learning more about yourself, and just giving yourself the permission to experience these things. Again, we're so outcome orientated. We're so like, I need to get to the goal. I spoke about this last week. That just robs us. It deprives us of the present moment, which is where everything is happening and everything is unfolding. And all of this is just a dance. And it's just this, as I've said many times, this unfurling experience where we get to just learn more about ourselves. So like not get rid of, I don't like that term. Let go and soften out of this, like, it's only worth my while if I succeed in it. It's not about success or failure. Like, just step out of that paradigm completely. Again, we've been living in a society that has really molded us into a certain way of thinking and being, and it's just not serving us anymore. It was actually never designed to serve us. It was designed to control us, and now we're breaking free, and that's beautiful. Tumultuous at times, but beautiful. So where does intuition, our inner guidance system, and our outer support or guidance system come in? We have this inside of us, but we've got to, like anything, like if you're learning a new sport or yoga, or if you're learning a new instrument, it takes time and practice to fine tune the skill and to kind of flex those muscles. So you start by just firstly setting the intention, I'm going to begin to notice my intuition. I want to connect with it. So you might hear it as a voice. You might feel it as a sensation in your body. It might be just like a kind of knowing that comes in. Again, like I said in the beginning, there is no right or wrong way. It's very unique and personal to you. But you start to create the intention of just paying attention to it more often. A lot of the times you're not going to hear it. And to be honest, sometimes I got beef with my intuition because I'm like, why ain't you louder? I had an experience at a restaurant on this weekend where it was a terrible experience, and the bill was astronomical. And I was like, why didn't I ask about this one thing? Like, why? Oh my God, why didn't my intuition just be like, you should kind of ask what the price is for that? And just, whatever, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But again, it was just, a good lesson. And so sometimes I'm like, God, why? Why can't I hear it? Or sometimes I've heard the voice, but I don't heed it. And, I think we have to be really gentle and patient with ourselves because, again, we have been for thousands of years we've been pulled so far away from ourselves. We've been disconnected from nature. And that's why it's really important to spend more time in nature, to meditate, to breathe, to journal. These are all we need to come into a state of being. Our intuition comes through a state of being. If you are doing all the time and you're busy and you're in your thinking mind, it's very hard to hear your intuition. It might be there, but you're not going to hear it. You're going to completely bypass it. The more you come into a state of being, and we are human beings, we're not human doings, that's when you begin to fine-tune the skill, because you start to understand, feel, hear the language. You get to know the language of your intuition. And again, it's an embodiment and it's an experience. So, coming into meditation and firstly just getting to know what is the essence of your being. That's a whole other thing I could talk about, which I'm not going to go into today. And again, I'm always here for people that are wanting to explore this more in a one-to-one session. But it's really understanding the energetic field, the energy of who you are, the essence of your spirit, your higher self. People that aren't on a spiritual path, you're like, what the hell are you talking about, Corinne? And one day I will do a podcast that's more kind of like back to basics. But for now, I'm hoping those that follow me, you're on board with me. But it's really just getting to know, think about that there's a unique blueprint. Every one of our fingerprints is completely unique. Nobody can share your fingerprint, right? So think about the essence of who you are is that it's your unique fingerprint, and nobody can replicate that. Not even a clone can replicate that. And that essence of who you are, as I've spoken to before, is like the canvas behind everything. Once you start to feel what that is like, and then, the more that you do this work, the whole point of doing this work is to understand the layers that are on top and what is kind of your false self, your personality, your coping mechanisms, your fears, your wounds, your triggers, what's the language of your emotions, like all of these things I've talked about. When you start to understand all of these different layers, but you know what the canvas is behind it all, then the clearer it is to tune into these things, right? To tune into your intuition, which again will come through in some kind of unique form to you. And this becomes your inner guidance system. Your inner guidance system is that voice. It's that gut feeling. It's that, I had an experience in my 20s where I was traveling around Southeast Asia. I was in Laos. Was I in Laos? Yes. I was not in Laos at that time. I was in Thailand. And I was getting on a plane with my boyfriend to go to Laos, which is very, very third world country. And we had bought the ticket and we were waiting in the waiting room. And I all of a sudden was like, I can't get on this plane. I just cannot get on this plane. It was like something in me, everything kind of like went into like blurred around me, like the focus was just inside of me and everything else was kind of blurry, portrait mode. And I just looked across the table at my boyfriend at the time and I said, I can't get on this plane. I don't know why, but I cannot get on this plane. And he's like, okay. And then the most miraculous thing happened because we just kind of like, we heeded the call and went downstairs, went to the very busy desk and just told the guy, we had just bought our ticket, but I was like, we can't get on this plane. And like, I'm telling you, miraculously, he was just like, okay, went and got the cash, gave us this is Thailand back in like 2005, right? Different world, no digital currency then. And he just handed us the cash and was like, have a nice day. And it was like, what? We walked out and we were sitting in the parking lot and I was just kind of like, what the hell just happened? That was crazy. And my boyfriend just trusted me so much. I was in a very intuitive space, very, very intuitive, heightened intuitive space at that point in my life. And so I think he already knew like, okay, she's got some like crazy antennas. I'm going to trust her on this one. And so anyway, nothing had happened right away, but what we decided to do is go the other way. So we had like a route planned out and we thought, okay, let's do it backwards. So we decided to fly to Hong Kong and then we were going to go into China and then come around Vietnam and eventually get to Laos that way. So we're just doing it the opposite way. And when I got to Hong Kong, the next day, I got incredibly sick, really, really sick. And I was rushed to the emergency room. I passed out there. And I had a really bad intestinal parasite. And basically they said, had that happened if you had been in Laos, where there's just not... there's very little, at least at the time, in the way of kind of medical care. They were like, with this condition, they would have put you on a plane to Thailand. And, that's sketchy if you're really, really sick. So I just knew that a week prior, my intuition knew, do not go there because you're going to get sick and you're not going to be taken care of. And God knows, who knows? I don't know if I could have died or it would have just been terrible and terribly scary. It was scary enough in Hong Kong, but there was an emergency room and there was doctors and, they helped me. And then I had to I went back to Thailand, to the islands for a month where I had to just, take care of myself and not do anything and recover from this thing. So I've had experiences like that. And, thank God that I heeded them. And that's just another example of we have this incredible internal guidance system. We just have been trained, I'm going to use that word, we've been trained to stay in the left brain, in the logical brain, in the judgmental brain. Our right brain is more intuitive. And then, we can go into the other intelligence centers of our body, our heart and our gut, which are also profoundly intuitive, right? But if we've just learned to live in like one hemisphere of our brain, and then primarily in the neocortex thinking brain, we have lost like access to an amazing, like phenomenal amount of just tools and a system that is just there to help and support us. I had this great conversation with my daughter the other day. We were talking about food, and she was saying she learned, at school, like, oh, if you see an apple that has a worm in it, that's good. That means the apple is good. But if you see an apple that's like perfect and no creature has gone close to it, don't eat it. And she was absolutely right. Like, if you look at tests that they've done with butter versus margarine, ants will not touch margarine because they're like, fuck that shit. It's poison, it's chemicals, right? But like butter is, that's fine. You can eat that, especially if it's good quality butter. So again, we live in a society where all of our food is sprayed, the amount of insanely bad, non-live ingredients that are in food these days is just atrocious. And you could say all of this is like the amount of sugar and chemicals, pesticides, what's around us, what's in the air, what's in the water, the calcification of the pineal gland, all of these things. But it's just, when you start to take care of your body and you eat healthy, I hardly drink alcohol anymore these days. I never was a big drinker, but I really rarely do it. And if every now and again I do, it's just like, it does feel like poison to me. And I'm not saying, oh no, be pure and holy and don't drink. Like, do whatever you want to do, but notice how it makes your body feel. And I just have noticed over the years, I think especially as I do believe the frequencies are changing. And so these things are more harsh on our body. And I could feel the effects of it physically, emotionally, psychologically. And I don't know, I just think for me, I have always valued really listening to my body. If my body says, yeah, this feels good, then great. And if my body goes, no, this doesn't feel good, then I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that to you. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to punish you. So part of trusting this internal guidance system and wanting to fine tune our intuition, if you so choose to want to do that, is to take care of yourself, and, all of these various things help to support us, and really understanding that our body is made up of so many, trillions of cells and community of cells, and it's all this kind of living live being, and that there's always communication. So now I want to move into, God, this is getting long, sorry, but now I want to move into the external guidance system. So we have our internal guidance system, our intuition, our energetic body, our feeling body that can alert us to things and guide us as well. It doesn't always have to be like some drama. It's also just guiding us like, ooh, this feels good. I want to go there. Or this person feels really lovely, or this person's energy doesn't feel so lovely. Like, it's just an amazing compass, barometer, and, again, tool to use. The outer guidance system, this is where I guess your belief systems may stop you right here, or might invite you to keep going. I really believe, and again, I've had personal experiences in my life, so I feel like it's very real. I absolutely believe that there's unseen support around us. You might call them spirit guides, you might call them angels, you might call them whatever, but I just think it's almost naive of us to think that we are the only conscious beings here. We know now that plants are conscious beings, animals are conscious beings, but who's to say that there aren't, millions of unseen beings around us, and not just here on this planet, but universal communities, right? I think this is part of this awakening, is that we're recognizing the big and beautiful and vast web that we live in. And we are not at the top of the chain, and we are not the only intelligence. And, I think, and what's beautiful is if you're open to this, and I get it might be a stretch, and you might have be like, I'm going to stop now. I'm not going to listen to this anymore. But if you're still here, if you're curious enough, and the universe loves when you're curious, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, you'll start to notice how magical life is, and how things will show, the synchronicities begin to happen one after the next. And it gets really kind of sometimes fun. I was talking to a friend of mine who's just kind of stepping into this newly and just like smiling. It's just like, oh my God, I'm smiling all the time because these things are happening and they're just crazy. And wow, the synchronicity of that, or I got that sign, or, it's there. It's always been there. It's just if we choose to listen. And believe you me, there have been times in my life where I have not listened and I have felt very disconnected. But then I somehow find a way back, and I come back into my practice and fine tune again. And then for me, it's what brings magic into life. And then you feel less alone because you realize, oh, we're really supported. And whether that's me and my higher self and or this external guidance system, this unseen support. And I will also say, I love, this has been said before, that angels come in the form of people, or this morning, angels came in the form of my cat, alerting me to something. Let your mind expand beyond what it thinks is logically possible. Because then life gets really fun. It gets really interesting. So, yeah, I hope that's been thought-provoking at the very least, inspiring maybe, and that it might offer an invitation to just be curious about it. Like, what does your intuition sound like? What does your inner guidance system feel like? What is your external guidance system like? What have been the experiences that maybe if you look back on your life, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, actually, that's what was happening for me then. Sometimes it's easier to reflect back and go, oh, maybe that's what happened in that situation, And so then what you do is you actively engage with it in the present moment so that it doesn't just happen by chance. It's never by chance anyway. But basically what's happening is now you've brought it into your conscious awareness. So you're in communication with it. You're engaged with it actively, presently. And so then you can work with it, and you can ask your inner and outer guidance support system, like, for guidance, for signs, for support, for clarity, and I want to just say this before I sign off. You're not handing over your power to something outside of you, going, you tell me, you give me the answer. That's not how this works. You are going in and actually finding your inner authority, something that society does not want you to do. It says, listen to us. We know the truth. We will tell you what to do. Look at what kind of mess that has got us into for decades, but recently. So this is about coming in to yourself and trusting your own inner authority. This is a profound, profound piece of what we're going through right now, is find your inner authority. Trust your inner knowing. Trust your inner guidance system, your intuition. Know that you are so powerful and you have so many abilities. You just have to unearth them and reawaken them. And they're all there, ready to go online. And where that's going to take us, if we walk the path of love from a place of heart, not fear. Fear is going to bring us into a totally different dimension. We don't want to do that anymore, right? You have the choice to, but it's not going to be a very happy place to be. If you choose heart and the path of love, what is possible, I think, is going to be beyond our wildest dreams. And I think we can create truly a beautiful, beautiful future and a beautiful world. And that's not some hippy dippy shit. I think that is like really a reality, but it's a choice. It's an absolute choice. And this is us getting in the driver's seat, no longer playing the victim role, no longer being kind of dragged by some external authority that actually doesn't really give a shit about us. And really coming back to the incredible, wise, beautiful, compassionate beings that we truly are. So may this be an invitation to dive ever deeper into yourself with curiosity and explore all of who you are, which is beyond your wildest imagination. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you. Go and sit and contemplate what might trigger you. And loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.